Hey, hello guys. So welcome to this new training of Exploit Pack. On this one, we are gonna talk about red teaming and red team exercises from both sides of the fence. So basically, from a real red team attack and also from would be more like a black hat offensive type of attack. So in the case of red team. Um, what I would like to show you is how you can how can you use exploit pack for that, and besides that, the type of attacks and what can you do, and not only of course with exploit pack, because you are in an exploit pack meeting. I'm going to show you exploit pack and how to use it, but also there are several ways of you can do a conduct type of this type of attack scenarios. But first and first, if you have any question for me, just unmute yourself, or you can also drop it on the chat section. Let me see if I can leave it here. I'm gonna leave it open here. So if you have any question or you have any problems with the mic, with the sound or something, please say so. Otherwise, I will just continue. The meeting will be recorded. Depends on how everyone feels about sharing the meeting. I will share it with you guys after that. Otherwise, we can just keep it private as always. So all right. So you have exploit pack, right? You know, exploit pack is an exploit framework you can use to develop your own exploit. You can use it for penetration tests and so on. But besides that, we were trying to add some tools here and there, scripts, some useful part of the tool that can be used during red team exercises. Nowadays, we can see that this type of red team exercises are getting more and more interesting for all size of companies, not only like big companies, but also small and medium-sized companies are getting interested in this type of attacks, in replicating this type of attacks. What we try to do here is not to become to like an adversary simulation, but you want to really be that adversary, not only simulated. So yeah, so tools like the you might know for adversary simulation. Yeah, I think you know already a few. Maybe that's not. We don't even need to talk about those, or so we don't get into comparisons with those tools. But those type of tools, they typically use beacons. They typically launch attacks that you know before launching those that are going to be detected, and you launch typically campaigns those campaigns are going to be simulated, and for instance, to test the resilience of an I don't know, your monitoring system, your endpoint protection, or whatever is in place in your organization in order to block and monitor those type of attacks. So, but yeah, that's in most of the cases it is enough. But when you are talking about a real type of offensive scenarios, I mean the real ones, those cases, you know, it might happen that someone will do something like that, but in most of the cases they will not do that, or they are not going to be successful in doing that. So for that, you need to move a little bit further in the scale, and then start doing different type of attacks, more offensive type of attacks, and those are more complex and requires a little bit more knowledge in doing so. So typically, because we want to cover the whole spectrum of it, we have the first approach against these red team exercises will be a manual approach, of course, and there is no tool that will cover 100% of that. Like the first you need to get to know the target, and for that you can start doing OSINT, you can start doing network discovery, and you can do a manual type of approach. But it depends, of course, on the red team exercise that you want to conduct. And for those type of red team exercises, there are several tools that you can do, you can use, and you can launch. um, yeah, but what I would recommend is that that would be pretty much specific to the target that you are trying to attack to. And also the thing is, with those typical red team exercises, you will define a scope, right? And then if you define a scope, is not as uh, is not as it would be simulated scope, right? Because at the end, if you get a real attack, they will have no scope, right? That's something that every red team needs to work with, because at the end you don't want to mess up with production, or if you can mess up with production, you need to deal with the consequences of your actions in the case that something goes out. But in a real team, on a real attack, there will be no consequences for the threat actors. There will be no consequences if any of the production servers goes down or anything like it. So how can you work with a scope without messing around with with the scope itself? So in most of the cases, that what's happening is that they will define a known scope items, or they will define a known scope environment, or something that you don't need to touch with. And it also depends on the tool that you use, as how intelligent they will be, or in order to define a scope, in order not to go there. But of course, depending on the tool, it will be it was successful at not reaching those or not. And if you lower the bar on the automation side of it, then what's going to happen is that it will require a more complex and more a more skilled penetration tester or red teamer in order to do exactly the same, but from a manual perspective. So so you need to think about it first, how you how do you want to build that roadmap? How do you want to go from A to B, and how to get the same results? Basically, you can automate it, or you can use your skills with the resources that you have. On the case of exploit pack, it will be more on the scale of using your own skills, because there's no point and click tool that will give you root after a few clicks. That's not going to happen. If that happens, if that's the case, then it means that there is something quite wrong with the target that you are doing, or you will be maybe doing something inside a lab. But most of the cases, if you try a regular scenario or regular company, then at least they will have something patched, and it's not going to be an open ground for everyone just to go double click and hack it. So moving forward, if everyone agrees on these subjects, in this way of working around red team exercises and real type of scenarios that you can conduct, then we can move in the type of attacks that we can conduct, because then we need to talk about 2021, right? So we need to adapt to the most modern technologies that we have and the way of working for these red team exercises. And guys, if you have any question, feel free to stop me right there, or if you want me to mention any type of tools of this some similar or doesn't sound similar or something. Sorry, that is a little bit boring, the first half of it, because it cannot get practical if we need to define the baseline. So I don't know if everyone is aware of or has experience conducting red team exercises. That's what I'm doing this kind of intro into red team exercises. All right, so moving forward into that, as I mentioned, you need to yeah, you need to adapt to 2021 and the new way of working. Not only because of the pandemic that we are living right now, but not only that, but because of the way of working that we are having since 10 years ago, meaning every employee will have their own endpoint. They will have access to some of the network resources that the company will provide to them. They will have an email. They will have access to a share. Most of the cases, they will have access to a share. They will share their work among the team using any type of ticketed system, maybe email, maybe yeah, maybe they have something to communicate with each other inside the company. They will have maybe some sort of a CMS to publish news. So that's typically the way that they are working since the last 10 years in corporate scenarios that we are aware of. And since 2, 3 years ago, most of the big companies, they are moving into cloud for some of the more critical security type of solutions that they use, like SIEMs, like monitoring tools, even antivirus. So a lot of critical stuff is moving into cloud, and that means that the reaction time for if something goes wrong, if something happens, if something is detected during your red team exercise, always having in mind that you are coming from the offensive side of it, so you are launching it, not you are not the sysadmin or the network admin on that case, but you are, or the blue team. We are always talking about the red team, so we are always talking about that you are on the offensive side of it. So meaning that something is, if something is detected, you build a script, you build a malware, you build something that you want to use to conduct that red team exercise, and then you want to exploit it. And if it is detected and this company have everything connected on the cloud, it means that not only it will be detected on that particular endpoint that you are trying to basically take control of, but it will also be detected on anything else that is part of that network. And also what typically would happen if that, for instance, if they are using some sort of EDR solution that is also connected to the cloud and is even part of the on-premise solution, and is side of it is connected to the cloud, then your new, freshly built, coded, manually customized malware that you are trying to use, it will also go into the cloud and it's gonna be detected anywhere else, not only on your on that particular endpoint. That's the case for any other tool that you didn't build, and that's what that's why some of the tools that you say, oh, this hasn't been detected, blah blah blah, and then it's this really good and it's a 0-day, and so on and so forth, type of tool, or and then you try to use it, and then for some reason it is detected. Maybe it's not, it doesn't even have it's not because of a particular technical reason of the tool itself, but something popped out, or maybe it's for behavioral detection. Like for instance, the user put that script, malware, executable, or anything that we are talking about in a folder that shouldn't be there. Then because of a particular rule that has been detected, and launch an automatic investigation or something like it, and then it goes into the cloud and it's flagged as a malware, then you cannot use that no more. So yeah, that's 2021 for you. That's how those are like the challenges of new red teams and red team exercises when we are talking about real red team exercises nowadays. So that's what we have to work with. But there's also besides that, there's also a right side. That means that every user, every endpoint is um, uh, more or less connected for a long time during the to the internet directly, and also it opens a bridge between that computer using typically a browser to the internet. So meaning that you know that a few vectors of attack are always there, like a browser, you know, it's always there. That's why browser exploits are quite particularly interesting in nowadays. Do you know that most of the browsers that are being used nowadays are based on Chrome? You also know that they are hardly using emails for communication. So you also know that they are still using a lot of Office solutions. Some of them are on the cloud, like Google, like Office 365, but more or less they are still using those type of solutions for doing the real work. And yeah, and also that most of the endpoints they are still being Windows, running on Windows using Windows tools. And yeah, so that's what you know beforehand, before even starting your red team exercise. Those are the things that you can check, like check that 80% of the cases is gonna be like that. So those are quite a big target that you can use. um, Besides that, you know that being on 2021, people is not scared of dropping sensitive information on the browser. Still not scared to share password, emails, credentials, credit card numbers, wherever you name it. And if it sounds something similar, like something that is coming from the corporate, from the company that they are working on, then they are gonna fully 100% trusted in most of the cases. Only, of course, you will always have the black sheep, the paranoid guy, but that's not the case. That's not really the case. So that's what I'm saying. 80% of the whole population that lives on those networks, meaning the employees using their company resources, are gonna be like that. And those are some things that are quite important to know. And as I mentioned before, you know those before even starting this exercise, this test, or this uh, yeah, this attack. Let me sip my coffee.